I'll tell you what, Andy. If Missouri even dares to beat Alabama next weekend, those AP voters might drop them out of the top 25 entirely. Just to make them think about what they've done, you know?
I know, exactly. They won't think anything of Alabama anymore, that's for sure.
I think literally they'll go, well, they only beat a bad Alabama team. They only got them in their down year.
Yeah,
you got to drop them.
Yeah, exactly.
You got to drop them a few more spots. I don't think
move
anybody,
Illinois up again, right? Yeah.
Listen, and look, credit to Illinois, good win over Michigan. It's not the same Michigan team. We know that for sure.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody that saw Missouri dropping from 19 to 21 in the AP poll didn't scratch their head. Everybody was going, really? This time they're going to drop them this time again? Okay. All right. We're used to it by now, but I think everybody collectively is kind of at this point going, you got to be kidding me. But you know what? It just doesn't even matter. What matters is what's ahead, but before we talk about what's ahead, we got to talk about what just happened, because that was some kind of win for the Missouri Tigers. They keep finding ways to surprise you, and you think you've seen every way that there could be to come up with an unlikely, improbable win. Missouri goes and does that. Where do we begin? It was just an unbelievable turn of events.
We have to begin with Brady Cook, right? I mean, that was the stuff of heroes. That was quite literally, no matter how much it might hurt or how difficult it might be to be out on the field, you're going to try and do it to give your team a chance to win. And at first it was like right after he got hurt, it was almost to his detriment, because he was out there for a few more plays after the injury when we saw him get up and he was hobbled, and then it very clearly was not beneficial. Like it created a sack. He stumbled upon himself. Like that was where, okay, buddy, come out of the game. Let's get somebody else.
He was on one leg.
Get checked out. Literally one leg. I mean, here's the thing. I get it. He's not the best quarterback Mizzou's ever had. Not the most talented quarterback Mizzou's ever had. But if you talk about a guy that loves Mizzou more than just about anybody that has played on that team in years past, that's Brady Cook. And I don't know why you can't root for that. I don't know why.
I don't think there's anybody out there not rooting for that. I mean, come on.
I mean, there probably still is, but it's for the wrong reasons.
There might be a couple.
It's for the wrong reasons.
Trolls.
Like, that's why.
Well, here's the thing.
Yeah.
Everybody that was pining for Drew Pine, pun intended, you got to see what that looks like. And I'm not going to sit here and rip Drew Pine. He came into a situation under duress, and it looked the way that it looked, right? Brady Cook has not had his best season. He even said on the field in the TV interview after the game, the first 6 games did not go the way that I wanted them to this year. And he said that as a quarterback of a Missouri team that was 5-1 coming into Saturday. But he knows what we all know, that he hasn't played his best this season prior to Saturday, right? And then he goes down on the first drive of the game, and you're thinking, oh my gosh, this is the way that homecoming's going to go down. You're going to lose to Auburn, who, look, they've got their issues, but they're going to get away with one because Missouri's offense just could not find any rhythm without Brady Cook in the game. And for him to come back into the game, he had his pads off, Andy. He was across the street at the hospital, right? Like, yeah. The guy's day was done. 99 times out of 100, 999 times out of 1,000. When your quarterback is across the street with his pads off, getting an MRI, he's not coming back into that football game. But he just made a decision and said, look, I'm keeping tabs. I know the way that this thing's going. And my gosh, he's thinking, I got a couple games left on that field, and this could be one of them if I want to get back in there and find a way. Trainers, just get me away into this football game. And if that football team didn't respond in one of the most amazing ways to the return of Brady Cook to the lineup, that was unbelievable. Andy, sitting there in the crowd, I said, and look, I was there with my wife and my son. My son goes, can we go see the columns? Columns. He loves the columns. He wanted to go see the columns. It's the third quarter.
Right.
And and you know me, man, I don't want to leave till the last dog dies. I was there at the game in College Station way longer than I should have been. But at this game, it was 17-3 or so at the time. Third quarter, I thought, if Drew Pine comes back out for another drive and it's a 3-and-out, I might let this kid go see the columns. My wife was like, yeah, we can go if you want to go. And I was like, let's just see. I'm seeing on Twitter that Brady Cook's back on the sidelines. That's kind of crazy. I bet he's coming back into this game. They need one play. If Brady Cook's coming back into this game, from an emotional standpoint, this football team needs one play to completely flip the script. And after a play on the sideline that I thought Mookie Cooper should have probably had, the very next play, he comes up with the play of the season, scampering all the way down to the 1 yard line. Would have been cool to see him get that touchdown. But that was enough, and I said, this isn't over. This team's not dead. After they were dead, Andy. They were dead in the water. It was done.
The season was dead in the water.
Everything you hoped for.
I was ready to write about Luther Burden being the guy that ended up having the play where Mizzou's season was over. That was it. That was the story. And then that happened. First of all, gosh, can we get Mookie Cooper a touchdown? He's never had a touchdown since coming here to Mizzou. Can we get him one? Oh, that was worth more than any touchdown could be. It was still an excellent play there. It did exactly what it needed to do for not only the team but just the building. Everybody else in the building saw Brady Cook come out there and they're like, "Hey, there's a chance."
Just give us one little inkling right here with Brady Cook on the field that this thing is about to turn around. You just need it. It didn't even need to be that explosive. Just give us something, and I'm going to believe again. And Mookie Cooper gave us that. Just amazing.
875-KTGR. Call or text us. Your reaction to Mizzou coming back to beat Auburn. And as ugly as it looked, it still was a win for Mizzou, and they still get to talk about only having that one loss right now. So we'll see how that looks. But I thought the way that they came back in that game, of course, it was all about Brady Cook, of course, getting the offense back into its juice. But, man, the defense needed to stand up in the moments that they did, too.
They kept them in the game.
One touchdown, and it was on that 47-yard bomb. And,
blown coverage.
Yeah, blown coverage. Can't have those.
We've seen it.
That was it. That was the only touchdown they had. So, and the muff punt was the other one. That's not on the defense.
Not on the field.
To have that kind of performance, to take it away a couple of times. They didn't even win the turnover battle, but still were able to keep Auburn out of the end zone in the crucial moments, still able to give the ball back to Brady Cook in the crucial moments so that he could operate down the field. Man, the defense played its hearts out, too. And I think they were affected by Brady Cook being out there.
Well, they were, but they were solid before he came back, because if they didn't play to the really strong level of play that they had while all the Brady stuff was going on in the background, there's no game to return to, right? So I want to give the defense credit outside of that one play that you mentioned that went for the long touchdown. And gosh darn it, you'd like to think that 7 games into the season we could figure out a way to avoid those lapses, but there's another one. But outside of that play, They allowed Brady to bide his time to kind of figure out, is this possible? Is this going to be something that we can actually do? And then, I agree. Once he came back into the game, there were spots where you think, oh, this has got to be the legacy drive where they have a big drive, but stalls out, they have to punt. And then the next drive started on the 4-yard line, whatever it was, 5-yard line. And then the defense not giving up any points on that stand there, between the one that was the punt that was down at the 1 or whatever it was, and then the one that ended up being the game-winning drive. That defensive stand in between, they found a way. In field position that was not favorable, they held up. The defense played its best game of the season by far. It played such a good game defensively against an Auburn team that I know they're 2-5, and the AP voters don't respect having to come from behind to beat Auburn on your own field, whatever. Auburn, their offense is not a bad offense. They've got talented players on offense. Missouri found a way to hold those guys down. Peyton Thorne couldn't throw for a whole lot of yards. Jarquez Hunter didn't run for a whole lot of yards. The defense against an offense that is better than their record would tell you it is. The Missouri defense stood up, and they showed me something that I don't think I had seen yet to this point in the season, and that's including the 2 shutouts. This is a different level of competition, and they had to have it to win the football game today.
Yeah, again, it was this Auburn offense with, as you mentioned, Jarquez Hunter only having 57 yards rushing. We thought he'd be due for 100 in this game based on how Mizzou has looked against the run. Keandre Lambert-Smith, 2 catches, 16 yards. Their most dynamic receiver out there.
Yeah.
Non-existent. They only turn it over once. It seems the games where they really struggle on offense is when they have 2 or 3 turnovers in the game. This time, only one lost fumble. That was it. And Mizzou's defense still able to stand up and be the edge in the game, to be able to allow the offense the time to get back into their rhythm with Brady Cook out there. They didn't possess the ball longer than Auburn did, but they were able to be a little bit more efficient when Cook was out there. And so, man, I just, again, the effort all around was really good from this team, but it was sparked by Brady Cook just making the effort to get back into the game, warming up the way that he did on the side. Like it looked like a guy that was just trying as much, like a bullpen arm, when the pitching coach goes out to the mound to buy time, and Cook's out there like quickly, like, get me the ball again, boom, get me the ball again, boom, so that I can get this arm ready. Like, that's how quick it started happening for Brady Cook.
Could you believe the way he was moving, though? Not just throwing the football. The way he was moving.
Oh, yeah.
They ran the 2-point conversion play. They ran the play. If you're at the 2-yard line, Brady Cook is the guy with the ball in his hands more often than not. But you kind of figured, well, with his injury, there's no way that's going to be part of the equation. But they faked the flip to, I think, Brenden going the other way, and Cook just finds a way to get in there, diving across the goal line. The way he moved was unreal considering the circumstances.
And then scrambling for first downs on the 17-play drive at the end. I mean,
when they had to
keep it alive. I mean, that was impressive stuff. Again, I'm in marvel of it. No, I'm not in marvel of Brady Cook's talent level. I get it. But he's.
We don't need to speak a negative word about this guy today.
That's the thing.
Mean, look.
Yeah,
we said what we had to say. He didn't play. He has not played his best season. He knew that coming into the game. He acknowledged it after the game. Whatever you think the limitations are, it's irrelevant right now. Him coming back into the game saved the Missouri football season, and it energized the team in a way. And look, we're going to talk about other things today on the show. We're going to talk about the rest of the SEC. Alabama loses to Tennessee. I don't know what that Alabama team's going to look like. What's their motivation going to be? Obviously, backs against the wall, they have to basically win out if they're wanting to be in the playoff. That's the obvious part. But maybe without Saban, they're just in a spot where they're ripe for the picking. It honestly doesn't matter to me what that team, what Alabama comes out and looks like. Missouri is going to bring its A game in Tuscaloosa. I think emotionally, to have what they had happen, I just don't see any other way. That rallied the team in a way that it just didn't seem like was going to be possible in such a short period of time. It was the only thing that could have happened for them to win the game. And now it could potentially be, it could be the fake punt at Kentucky of last year. It could be the Mevis field goal. It could be one of those season-defining sort of plays if they use this momentum. And look, Brady Cook's, his status is going to be very interesting, Andy. I can't fathom the guy doesn't play, but if you saw that video from the locker room, sounded like Drink said high ankle, right? And watching it, kind of the hip drop tackle nature of it, that's what it looked like to everybody. Those are hard, man, especially for a mobile quarterback to move around. You got a guy that's a pocket passer, that's one thing. Brady Cook, to be his best, is going to need to move around like he did in the fourth quarter of that game. I don't know what that's going to look like. The fact that he came back into that game, and with how much he loves Mizzou, which you said, Brady Cook's going to play. I would be stunned as to any other outcome. The effectiveness of Brady Cook and how much pain he's going to have to play through, that's a fair question.
Yeah.
It's going to be up to everybody on that roster and coaching staff to give him hell in Tuscaloosa because they're going to need everybody. But I'm looking at that spread, 13.5 points, whatever it is. I don't know if they're going to see a spread this week, Andy. They see that their season's still alive because of what their quarterback did on Saturday afternoon.
875-KTGR. Give us your reaction to Mizzou's win against Auburn. 573-875-5847. Let's go out to the KTGR hotline now. Who's this?
Gary.
Gary, you're on the big show. What you got?
Yeah, well, first of all, when I woke up drinking my coffee this morning, I almost spit it all over the table when I saw 21 in the AP poll. But then if you look across to the coaches poll, there's 17. And I think the coaches know a little more than most of the sports writers. And I don't think half these sports writers even knew that Brady Cook was hurt. And he was out for a majority of the game. So, and then the other thing that they're not looking at is all of a sudden Vanderbilt's in the top 25. And, yeah, we beat them, but just by a field goal or whatever. That should go a long way when it comes time for bowl games and seeding.
No, I get it. Appreciate the call, Gary, here on the Big Show, KTGR. I get the vitriol over the polls in the short term. Like, why would you drop them a couple of spots? They beat the... And I do think the writers knew that Brady... This story caught up like wildfire when we learned that Brady Cook was in the hospital. Folks started picking up on that. I wouldn't think that the writers were ignorant of that by any means. But here's how I look at it. Mizzou is now in the same spot in the polls, at least in the AP, that they were after they lost against Texas A&M. And I think that's somewhat fair because nothing should change your outlook about them after how they won against UMass. They did what they were supposed to do. And this win was, while still a win, it was kind of an ugly win. So you don't drop necessarily from where you were after the A&M game, but are we going to change a lot of what we think of your team after the 2 wins that you have? I also see that argument too. So put everything in perspective. Mizzou is still the team that's lost big against A&M and has beaten everybody else in some way, shape, or form in varying ways of how to beat teams. And now they have to try and find another win out there that impresses people, and they'll have a chance this weekend.
Yeah, that's the thing. They've got it on their schedule this coming Saturday, and I don't like that they dropped in the AP. I think it's unfair, but at the same time, again, Missouri is in a situation where they can't afford to gripe or focus or even think about rankings, and I don't think they are in the locker room. I think that's mostly something that's happening outside that room, but they're going to get their chance to prove it. And yeah, I think it is a little bit of a bummer. We told you with the SEC rooting guide before the weekend, like, hey, Mizzou fans should want Alabama to beat Tennessee because you want Alabama to look better. And that didn't end up happening. Tennessee wins that game, and you don't get to face Tennessee to kind of figure out how you match up against them. But yeah, I think you just need to win. You need to beat Alabama. That was probably going to be the case regardless. It's just that outcome is not going to look as special because Alabama's looking to be a different version of Alabama than we're used to seeing. But it's respected that that's a tough place to go and play. And if you find a way to win there, I'm not worried. I'm not worried about, the notion of, well, 10-2 was maybe a long shot. Would 11-1, even Missouri, could they get left out? I'm not even entertaining that. I think you go beat Alabama. You recognize that none of this is the college football playoff poll. This is just the
right.
AP.
Yep.
And if you're talking about the coaches at 17, if you beat Alabama, you probably jump a few spots in the coaches. You'll jump in the AP. But if you're talking about whenever those college football rankings come around the corner, earlier in November, right? Isn't that when they first come out?
They'll be out, first after Mizzou's bye weekend that's coming up after Alabama.
So this will be the last time anybody sees Missouri play a game, this Alabama game, before the polls come out.
Correct.
So if you win that game and the CFP reflects more like the coaches than the AP, suddenly you're talking about a Missouri team that's probably already on the doorstep of the top 12. If you lose to Alabama, well, you lose to Alabama, and then you just go play your games, play your best, and if you go to 10-2 and craziness happens around you, who knows? But yeah, this is your game. This is your chance for a signature win. I just feel it in my bones, Andy, that they know that. They don't care about what the numbers say. They know that this is their opportunity, and Brady Cook came back from the dead to give them this opportunity, right? They're not gonna squander that. I'm not saying they're gonna win the game. They're gonna play a good football game 5 days from now, and the chips are going to fall where they may. But that's new life that seemed impossible after Burden muffed that punt, right? Like, it just seemed impossible, and yet here we are. There's no better rallying cry than that for a team to kind of get behind and go try to do what many have considered to be unthinkable.